Good evening, everyone. It's Necro Thursday. I'd like to welcome you to this week's episode of the Necromaniacs Horror Podcast. How's it going, Mike?
It is going well. Tonight you get Mike and Mike in the dirty black summer of 2023. It is almost my big 5-0, Mike Hill. Almost.
Dude, Time the Avenger. Comes for us all. Comes for us all, bro.
It comes for us all. Yeah, I am 5 days away from being 50. I don't feel a day over 45. But you know what? Like music, horror keeps me young, Mike Hill. Horror keeps me young. What do you think?
I think that's probably a good angle to have in the world because I feel like music and horror and martial arts keep me young too, man. I feel real good these days.
Yeah, exactly. Had a fun show the other night, listeners, in Brooklyn at Gold Sounds in honor of my 50th birthday, if there is any honor in being 50. But it was a lot of fun, and Human had a great time. And if anyone listening was there, thank you very much for coming on out.
I was unable to attend that night, Mike, and
I understand.
Yeah, there was some previous double bookings going on with my lady that night, so
understood.
Yeah, but
all good, man. You've seen us before, and you'll see us again. Yeah. It's okay.
I'll be at the next one. We've played together. We've actually played shows together.
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
We have. Those were fun shows. Maybe it'll happen again. Who knows?
I would bet on that happening again.
I would bet on it happening again. Yeah. It is hot as hell in New York, New Jersey area, listeners. Hopefully you are keeping cool in the summer of 2023. So far, I'm having a good summer. I know you are as well, Mike.
Life is good, man. I got to say, man, I have nothing to complain about these days. Things are great in my life, and for the first time in many years, very optimistic about the future.
I am so happy to hear that, because a happy Mike makes for a happy Necromaniac spot. Yeah, that's right. Man,
absolutely.
That's happy Mike, happy life.
Yeah.
You can say that about me as well. But, it's funny, before we do our usual spiel, tonight we've got a movie that would probably be more suited for November, December, but just to put some air conditioning in this hot summer of 2023, we have plopped tonight's movie into the repertoire, huh?
And also, this one comes out of our voicemails too. This is
it does.
One of the movies that was recommended to us, and we're going to try to. Maybe we should try to do like one or two a month out of the recommendations, because people have been really coming across with cool ideas for movies to do.
Yeah, and we actually listen to you guys. We listen to the ideas, and lo and behold, they become episodes. So how about that? But before we go any further, we are part of a wonderful group of fellas known as the Horsemen of the Podcasting Apocalypse. Which basically means nearly every day of the week you get a really cool podcast to listen to, right, Mike?
That is 100% correct, and it's almost like the Chowder Society in the movie that we're about to talk about.
Chowder Society. Not as not as butch a sounding name as the Horsemen of the Apocalypse, though, I must say. Not that butch,
No, definitely not.
No.
Yeah.
But on Monday, who do we have, Mike Hill?
Starting the week off, we have Horror Wolf 666, brought to you by Brandon Legion.
That's right. On Tuesday, Into the Necrosphere with Jackie Smith. Guess what, listeners? Guess what was recently taped? The death metal, 90s death metal 666. That's right. Myself, Mr. Hill, and the illustrious host of that podcast, Mr. Jackie Smith, ran down our top 6 90s death metal LPs. That's going to be coming your way soon, right, Mike?
It was a blast, man. I had a great time. I kind of had very vanilla flavored selections on this one, but I mean, you got to be honest with what you think is the best,
It's honestly, it wasn't so much best and whatever and prim and proper. it was more. It was a favorites. It was a
Yeah.
favorites of the top 6 favorites of the '90s, pretty much. And it was interesting. Me and Jackie butted heads not once but twice. One could say twice. So, but it was a friendly headbutt. There was no fights. There was no bloodshed. There was no throwdown. But you'll hear it when you hear it because it was interesting. So yeah, a little sneak preview for you. On Wednesday, another horseman. You hear him tonight. It's the Everything Went Black podcast, Michael.
That's right. That's where I started into this illustrious career of talking into a microphone on a regular basis. And
That's right.
It's been going on for many years. And Mike has made many appearances on there as well as a guest.
I sure have,
Yeah.
including the maiden voyage.
That's right.
On Thursday, while you're listening to it right now, it's the Necromaniacs podcast coming to you every Thursday, also known as the greatest horror podcast in the world. On Friday, we have Break the Apocalypse with my brother John Draper. While the name change has not happened, the content change has begun, Michael. They now pretty much only talk about media, entertainment, Blu-rays, movies, television, streaming, etc. So they have moved away from politics and social issues. How about that?
That's probably, in this climate, probably a good move, actually.
Yes. Well, they did some research on their team. Their crack team did some research, and they made an interesting and I think good decision to just be a podcast that kind of talks about all that kind of stuff. And, it in some ways, it is like a nice companion to what we do here. At Necromaniacs, we pick a soul film and discuss it, and then from time to time go off on tangents about, maybe the state of horror or what we're watching, obviously, and what's going on. But they kind of do like this whole kind of smorgasbord of like, even like box office numbers and all that kind of stuff now. So it's really kind of fun. Check it out. Break the Apocalypse. And that is on Friday. What about Sunday, Michael?
Sunday is the Soul Knocks podcast brought to you by Master Carl Hikara. And it's if you're interested in darkness, the occult, the esoteric, that's your show. And check it out on Sunday. And and that's the entire week, man. You pretty much got stuff coming at you every week, every day of the week, except for Saturday, that is.
Yes, those are your horsemen of the podcast apocalypse. I gotta say, I checked out the Sinister episode with you and Jeff. I like Sinister. I saw it. I don't know. I forget how many years ago. But the one scene that always stood out with me was that one. I think where he's watching that footage and there's that was like a mass suicide kind of scene.
Yeah.
Oh man, creepy as hell. Yeah. I never saw Sinister 2 though.
No, Jeff watched it. He said it wasn't very good. I didn't even know there was a Sinister 2 until he mentioned it to
me. Exactly. But that was a cool episode. But tonight, children.
Well, let's get to our voicemails first.
Oh, that's right. How could I forget the voice? Yeah. I mean, Jesus Christ. Shame on me. Mike, what is that phone number?
The number is 908-913-0782. Once again, 908-913-0782. And that's the Necrophone. And if you want to give us a shout, tell us what you think of the show. And, lately we've been asking for a lot of recommendations of stuff to do. And, a lot of these are going to be turning into, shows like tonight. Tonight is straight from the voicemails.
That's right. We have one longtime listener, first-time caller, and one, I guess, many-time caller, we could say?
I would say Mike is a regular.
Regular caller, yes. Yeah. Better phrasing than many-time caller. Oh, yeah. Forgive my brain fart.
Definitely. And I'm glad that, this is Mike. So check it out.
Yes.
Yo, my necro brethren. Thursday, I'm trying to get back into the swing of shit here where I listen to the episode in the morning and then I call you on my lunch break. It's Mike from Telford here. Really enjoyed the episode today. I've not seen Sinister, and I believe that I'm going to do that. I might even do it tonight. Talk my lady into it. We'll check it out. You guys got me interested in it, so got a recommendation, although I think you probably have enough of them already, especially from my dumb ass. I watched a movie last night for the second time called Grave of the Vampire. It's a 70s, early 70s movie. Michael Pataki is like the main vampire in it. He's from God Told Me To, and a bunch of other shit. Fantastic performance by him in it. It's a really atmospheric movie. There's some plot holes in it. It's early 70s. Some of it doesn't make sense, but the atmosphere is fucking fantastic. And William Smith is in it. And I know you boys know William Smith, but if you don't, well, there's no way that you don't. But, I mean, he was probably in every fucking movie. Not every movie, every TV show that was on when we were growing up. But, and he plays Conan's dad in Conan the Barbarian, amongst the fucking, hundreds of roles. But he's fantastic in the movie, too. So if you haven't seen it, Grave of the Vampire, fucking check it out. And look forward to next Thursday. And hope you guys have a good weekend. Later.
I'm glad to see that Mike's doing well, man. I was worried about him. He was sick, and now he seems to be on the road to recovery, and that's good to hear.
Yeah.
So, have you seen that movie, Grave of the Vampire? I haven't seen that one.
I have not. I've heard the name though. It definitely sounds like one of those low budget jammies from the 70s. But I would like to check it out. I mean, I try to watch as much of like the 70s to early 80s stuff as I can. But the good thing about this whole genre is that there's always something new. There's always something you haven't seen. And this is one of them.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to look this one up too. And, that's we both share the opinion that the 70s was like a very important era in all of film, actually, but specifically horror.
Like wall to wall.
Yeah.
I have the controversial opinion that it is horror's greatest decade, but that is perhaps for another episode in itself, Michael.
Yeah. Next up, we got Andrew, first-time caller, long-time listener. So here's Andrew.
All right.
Hey, Necromaniacs. My name is Andrew. Long-time listener, first-time caller here. Been on board since show came back a couple years back. This is one of my big helps through the pandemic, so appreciate everything y'all been doing. Calling live from my normal weekly routine of walking my dogs and listening to the show. Hopefully there's not too much wind going on. Just wanted to shout out all three of you and thank you for everything you do for, showing folks like me who liked horror but didn't know some of the more obscure titles and stuff to check out. Found you guys via Jeff, huge ISIS fan. Fan of all three of y'all's music, actually. Playing a hardcore band myself. But for a movie to check out, I recommend a mid-2000s Korean film called The Wailing. It has been available on and off of Shudder and on and off of Amazon Prime for free. Not entirely sure current status, but one of the more interesting watches that I've seen as far as like a slow burn, kind of dialogue heavy friendly, a la Mike's preference. Definitely check it out. Love to hear it covered on an episode sometimes, and stay sick, y'all. Thanks.
Have you seen The Wailing, Mike?
I know about it. I think it's one of those real fucked up ones, actually. I've heard very good I've heard good things about it over the years.
I back it completely. I saw this a while ago, and maybe I'll revisit it since Andrew brought it up. And yes, it is very much along the lines of the kind of thing I enjoy. It's like this very dialogue-heavy, brooding, atmospheric, kind of slow burn. Excellent film.
Okay, so it's not like one of the more bloodier ones?
No.
I guess I'm thinking of something else.
No,
okay.
This is more of like, kind of like a lot of dialogue, like very, very slow kind of film. It's definitely awesome. And like he mentioned that it's on and off Shudder, and I don't know if it's actually still on Shudder, but that's where I watched it.
Okay. I like that title a lot.
Yeah.
That's a cool title. The Wailing. So, as I said before, I forgot the phone calls, listeners. We're taking a trip to the very early 80s tonight, 1981. And of course, I'm talking about Ghost Story. Not to be confused with the Ghost Story of the modern era, right? Same name.
That's right. There's two of these films. We're talking about the 1981 film based on the Peter Straub novel, Ghost Story.
That's right. This is directed by John Irvin, who is still with us at 83 years of age. John Irvin directed some cool films like Raw Deal, Mike Hill.
Yep.
That movie fucking rules. I saw that in the theater as a kid. Love that movie. Hamburger Hill. Movie called Dogs of War from back in, like the movie prior to this one, which was his film debut. That's one of those movies that's kind of eluded me. Like, I've heard of it and I've heard kind of good things about it, but I've never seen it. It has Christopher Walken and Tom Berenger in it. Have you seen Dogs of War?
I've seen all three of those films that you mentioned.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I think Dogs of War is something I watched with my dad like years ago when I was a kid, and of course, Raw Deal is an early Schwarzenegger film.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good one. Very, very cool movie. Very vibey. I mean, it's set, I believe it was November or December of 1979. Takes place in a town called Milburn in New England. Interesting thing about this movie, it is largely casted by senior citizens. Correct, Michael?
It's a powerful cast too, man. This is like some straight pro old school actors in this. So let's run down who's actually in this movie.
Yes, let's. Yeah. We have Fred Astaire as Ricky Hawthorne. Another classic actor, Melvin Douglas as Dr. John Jaffrey. Douglas Fairbanks Jr. as Edward Charles Wanderley. And the ever awesome John Houseman as Sears James. And this movie has from what do you call it?
Body
movie
Double.
We covered just weeks ago, Body Double. Young Bill Maher himself, Craig Wasson, playing a dual role as both Don and David Wanderley, and along with Patricia Neal as Stella Hawthorne, and Alice Krieg as another dual role as Eva Galley and Anna Mobley. I recognized her kind of straight away. She's been in a ton of shit, right?
Yeah, she's been in a lot of films.
Star Trek Voyager, and I think just some other stuff from like the 80s I just remember her from. She's in that movie Barfly.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And, I know what I remember her from. She's in Sleepwalkers from 1992. That horror movie that was kind of a big bomb.
Right.
That Mick Garris directed, our pal Mick Garris, from the Stephen King adaptation, by the way.
Yes.
Sleepwalkers. This movie did not do very well, folks. And again, a part of the more not as good early 90s horror output, huh?
Yeah, that one was definitely a little bit of a disappointment. Mick Garris talks about that film a lot on his podcast. So, yeah.
I may want to see that again, though. I don't know why. Just part of me wants to reevaluate a bunch of very early 90s horror to see if it is as bad as I remember it.
I feel like the 90s, by and large, was a weak decade, or at least the early part of the decade, as far as American horror goes,
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely said this before. I mean, it's like you have Silence of the Lambs in 91 and it wins an Oscar, and then it like curses horror for like 8-9 years.
well, they didn't even want to call that a horror movie.
Right.
Like it's like a drama or like some like a thriller or some shit like that,
And then, they literally remove the word horror from horror books, and it's just a very strange time. Things bounce back, of course, with Scream, but again, it's just a weird-ass time for horror in the 90s. But anyway, we digress. We're going to talk about this very cool early 80s film, Ghost Story.
The plot is, like you said, you mentioned this earlier, is that this is like a very straightforward plot, very straightforward ghost story. However, it's not about the plot. It's about the vibe and the atmosphere and just the incredible acting that goes on during this film.
Yeah, and honestly, dude, I think the special effects are fucking cool as shit for 1981, no?
Yes, excellent special effects, and just the overall feel of this movie is, as Jackie Smith refers to things, as top-notch, in my opinion.
It is top-notch. It is top-notch. Release date, December 18th, 1981. Runtime of 110 minutes. The budget, $13.5 million. It made $23.4 million. didn't set the world on fire. Kind of had mixed reviews, but like many things, as years pass, has been reevaluated as a more solid horror film, Mike.
Yeah, people speak they speak highly of this in retrospect. Like there's a bunch of these. I think it's In Search of Darkness. There's like 3 of them now. And they talk about this film, and they give it a lot of praise, actually.
Well, Ebert liked this film. Roger Ebert, he actually thought it was better than Straub's novel, which he had read. Isn't that interesting?
That is the one. I did not read the Straub novel, but our quality control manager, Rennie, likes the novel better. So
apparently the novel fleshes a lot out, and there's more to it. When we say it's a little simple, it's kind of a revenge movie. It's a revenge ghost movie that you kind of see coming now, right? I mean, with the lady now.
Yeah.
And but it doesn't mean again, this is a good fucking horror movie in my opinion.
Yeah.
But it's how they lay it all out, and I think the acting, and I don't know, in a way, like as I was watching it, because I actually watched this about 2-3 years ago, I rewatched it. I watched it again this week. I was like, I wonder what this would be like with a modern, a modern, cast of older men of the acting world of today. Like who would be in it?
I can't even visualize it actually, because I've only thought of this as being a film with these guys in it.
Like Donald Sutherland was the first person that popped into my head.
I can see that. Yeah.
Like you pick like classic actors of today, and you kind of make a movie like this, or redo it. But honestly, this movie doesn't really need a remake. But watch, Mike, 2 months from now, there's a remake of Ghost Story on the horizon.
Yeah.
But who the fuck knows? But anyway, yeah, you're gonna talk a little more about the plot.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing about this too is that there's most of this is the plot is portrayed through a series of storytelling, scenes. You know what I mean? There's a lot of like retrospective storytelling, and that's how this plot gets all weaved together. Of course, it centers around the Chowder Society, which is these 4 older gentlemen who they get together and they tell each other spooky stories at night, these tales of terror, and so they do this on a regular basis. You get the sense that these guys are, lifetime friends.
Yeah. Of note, this was the final movie for Fred Astaire and Douglas Fairbanks, and the final completed film for Melvin Douglas, who died 4 months before the movie was released. So how about that?
Damn.
Yeah. The only one left standing was Houseman after this movie was done.
Wow.
It's funny. I remember John Houseman was in the TV show Silver Spoons with Ricky Schroeder. He was the grandfather, and that was a little later in the 80s. This is like 81. I always remembered he was on that show. But the thing is this, I feel like, I really do want to read the story now, to be completely honest, or the book, because I would like to see some of the changes, and I would like to see if there's maybe a little more meat on the bone aside from the plot. So yeah, as Mike said, it's the winter of 1979, small New England town, 4 businessmen, Ricky Hawthorne, Sears James, John Jaffrey, and Mayor Edward Charles Wanderley, he's the mayor of the town, are in this thing called the Chowder Society. They tell these scary stories weekly. One of the fellas, Edward, has a son living in New York City who dies. He falls from his apartment after he sees the girl he's been sleeping with suddenly turn into a living corpse in his bed. The other son, Don, played by the young Bill Maher, of course, comes home at his father's request. And sometime after his funeral, he sees his dad just walking around through town in a snowstorm, and he's calling out to his dead son, and he sees a female apparition, and he falls to his death. And it's kind of like that's where the jump off really is. And it, I feel like a seasoned moviegoer will see where this is going as far as, well, it's basically the ghost of this woman come to take her revenge, but we don't know why she's taking revenge. Yeah. We don't know why she's targeting these guys, but you can kind of, I don't know, piece at least the beginning of the story together pretty fast, right?
Yeah, and the characters, the Wanderleys are really at the center of this whole thing. You know, so we got the dual role that Craig Wasson plays with Don and David.
Plays the two sons, yeah.
Yeah, he plays the two sons, the one who dies, who falls to his death, and then the son who comes back later. And he tries, to join the Chowder Society, he has to tell his own tale of terror. And his tale is very interesting. Yeah.
Because it involves a woman he met. Again, Alice Krige playing a dual role as well. So I thought, interesting. Look, the book, these are all individual characters, I'm imagining. Well, actually, no, that probably isn't true at all. They're also doubles, except for, having him play both roles of the son. I mean, that's the only kind of weird move.
Yeah.
Because Eva Galley and Anna Mobley are the same person. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But having Craig Wasson play both sons was interesting, right?
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting move too. Like to have him basically have it's like they're twins. Like they look exactly the same. And, but yeah, definitely Eva and Alma are the same person. But so that makes sense to me. But yeah, it was an interesting move because
Doyle is screaming like a banshee, listeners. My cat is pissed off. I don't know why.
Yeah, I couldn't place what that was. I was like, oh, okay, what's going on over here? I thought something was going on in my apartment, actually. Yeah, but yeah, so we go back in time, and Don is he's a professor at some small school. I think that's in Florida, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere in the South. Yeah, so, and he's actually in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And then he runs into Eva Galley, and he's completely smitten by her, and sort of leaves his current girlfriend high and dry, and just gets deep into this relationship with Eva. That's this torrid sexual relationship. Quite a bit of nudity in this movie too, I have to add.
Yeah. I mean, look, early '80s, people didn't give a shit about that. It wasn't a big deal.
Alma wants to get quickly this thing escalates. They're in love, maybe not, maybe he's enchanted by Alma. And, there's plans to get married, and Alma insists that she wants to marry Don in his hometown of New York.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And of course Don is reluctant to do that, and he notices that there's something that's not quite right about Alma.
She's very cold to the touch a lot, listeners. Yeah. She's very cold.
Yeah.
Maybe too cold.
A little too cold.
I mean, Florida. Yeah. A little too cold.
Yeah. And, Don breaks up with her, and that's their relationship's over, and he's sad. He falls into this sort of morose, depression, and he's remiss with his job. He gets reprimanded at his job, and then he basically loses his job, as a teacher.
And then we learn Don talks to his brother, and guess who is hooked up with the brother? I wonder who it could be.
Yeah, of course it's Eva Galley.
Yes, he's engaged. He desperately tries to warn his brother. And his brother scoffs, at the warning. And, well, hey, who commits suicide at the beginning of the movie, right, Michael? Hey.
What are your thoughts on this whole drama with the love triangle with his brother? What do you think of that? Weird.
Here's the thing. The ghost, okay, spoiler alert. We're spoiling this 1981 film, listeners, okay? The ghost is trying as desperately as she can to fuck this family. And I don't mean in the good way. But in a way, maybe in the good way, actually. Yeah. She's trying to kind of decimate the family. And she's going through both sons, and she was trying to get to dad, which was why she was insisting upon the wedding, in New England, right?
Right.
But my question is this. She's a ghost. Can't she just get her ass up there and take care of business?
Yeah, that's That's why I think maybe more of this story is laid out in the book. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like I
right.
was thinking the same thing about like, well, you know, she's a supernatural being. You know, does she need to
She's right.
catch her?
I mean, look, I'm asking a very logic-based question to an illogical situation, right, Mike?
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
I think, I mean, there may not even be the answer to that in the book, but, you know, maybe she needs the family member to kind of get it. Like, you know what I'm saying? There could be a whole host of reasons why she doesn't just get up there and take her revenge on the four guys, blah, 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 right?
Yeah, it's this very convoluted plot element where there's all this subterfuge that seems to be going on.
So yeah, so Don shows the elders an old photograph of a young woman who looks identical to Alma, and John has realized what's going on. John is one of the old gentlemen, right? And he, what do you call it? Oh, yeah, let's see. John, who plays John? John Jaffrey. The actor Melvin Douglas is the John character. He's pretty much pieced it all together, and he's telling the rest of them, like, hey, this is her. She's back. And they all, again, he's rebuffed, right, Mike?
Yeah. And then, the next day, John has a nightmare about Alma, actually, and he dies of a heart attack. Yeah.
So of the four elderly gentlemen who had the initial run-in with this woman that we don't know exactly what just yet, there are now two left alive of the four.
Yeah.
And then of course, young Bill Maher is still alive. But here's the thing. I'm not sure. Look, technically she shouldn't have a beef with him at all. But again, I think it was just a means to fuck with the family and fuck with him and get to the family. Like, you know what I'm saying? The whole lovey-dovey relationship with two sons was just, a whole part of the master evil plan, right?
Well, I think like maybe, yeah, I can see what you're saying, what we're coming out with that. But, them being the heirs of the older gentleman, Edward Wanderley, and Edward is at the center of this whole thing, really. You know what I mean? So maybe she wants a really, the whole bloodline is like she's got a beef with everyone,
Exactly. So, okay, John has died, and there are two left. And then it is finally explained to Don what really happened with this woman back in 1929. Doyle also wants to let us know what has happened in 1929, listeners. He is pissed off. Okay, so they were all smitten with this young girl named Eva Galley, right? It's kind of creepy. Let's be honest, Mike.
It's real creepy, and kind of like this plot element seems like something that would be in a film today because it really delves into like the frailty of the male ego and toxic masculinity and like all that kind of stuff.
So they all managed to get to her house one night after they dropped her off, and they come back because they all want to hook up with her. Okay.
Yeah.
She likes Edward the most, and she takes him to bed. But as it turns out, Edward cannot perform. Okay. The guys don't know that Edward can't perform. They actually think that he slept with her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
They leave, and then they kind of come back, and they're all drunk, and the other three kind of want to get what Edward got, even though Edward didn't get anything.
Yeah.
Right. And she starts dancing with them.
Very, very rapey and uncomfortable.
Yeah. It's rapey and creepy. Although we've definitely seen creepier and rapier, like way more, but this is, pretty rapey and creepy.
Well, the thing that kind of makes it uncomfortable is because I really like the older gentlemen. You know what I mean? As the older guys, like the actual Chowder Society, you want to think that these are solid, older guys. Like these are like, gentlemen. But then you see like in their younger days, the real
scumbags, right?
Kind of scumbags. Yeah.
Right. So, they're drunk and they're talking to her and she's dancing with one of them. And then she makes a comment about how Edward didn't sleep with her, and he gets enraged and he pushes her really hard and she bashes her head on this what is like not a chimney, like she bashes her head near the floor, but not on the floor, and dies.
Or actually, they think she's dead.
Yes,
Yeah.
they think she is dead. She appears dead. By all accounts, she appears dead. They all start bugging out. They're all beside themselves, and they decide to load her into the car. And it is decided that she is to be kept in the car in the back seat, and they're going to push her car into a nearby pond. So they do just that, the four of them. And as they're watching to make sure it goes down, well, she is alive. Eve, she sticks her head up and starts screaming and yelling as the car goes to sink. And basically, they didn't kill her the first time, but they killed her the second time, huh, Mike?
Yeah, definitely. And it's it's just that you kind of saw that one coming too, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
That I bet she's not dead, but also
and right. And now you kind of, as a viewer, why she's doing what she's doing. She's doing this for revenge against the four men that wronged her, and took it out on the sons of one of the men that wronged her. Right.
Yeah. And I can see why, because Edward is, kind of leads all back to him, really.
Well, now they're all finally on the same page. The three of them, or whatever. Don suggests they go to Eva's old house and confront the ghost once and for all. There, Don falls through rotting stairs where he breaks his leg. So Don is kind of out of commission for the next couple of scenes, right?
Yes.
And then Sears, John Houseman, one of the men left standing, goes to his car to seek help, leaving Don and Ricky, the other final older gentleman, behind while driving through a snowstorm, of course. Sears comes upon Eva's apparition, and, well, he dies too. His car crashes, right? And, he is the third victim, of course, of the revenge ghost. Let's see. What happens next, Michael?
Yeah. Let's see here.
Well, actually, no. He swerved off the road, and according to Wikipedia, actually, he is killed by one of Eva's accomplices, Fenny Bate.
Oh yeah, we forgot to mention those guys. There's this older guy with a leather jacket and this young kid living in the house that Eva used to live in.
Yes.
Now, this is something I'm curious about. They don't really they're implicated in this whole thing, but they're just kind of underutilized, and that leads me to believe that the novel probably has
it's
more.
Something they didn't get too into at all, actually, right? Not really.
It's like they existed only to kill Sears. Do you know what I mean?
Well, here's the thing. In Eva's house, right, there are two escaped mental patients, Gregory and Fenny Bate. That's where it comes from.
Yeah.
And so that's why they become kind of her, familiars, one could say.
Yeah.
I don't know, right?
Yeah, familiar sounds like a good term for that, yeah.
Exactly. So, but it's funny though, like it's almost like when that happens, it's like, oh, there's that guy.
Yeah, you forget that they're even part of the narrative until they show up towards the end. Yeah. And that's why I'm interested. I think I'm going to make it a priority to read this book because I want to find out like what the backstory is on all these guys.
Yeah. Okay. The thing is, Ricky, again, now the final elder gentleman, right? Fred Astaire. I'm going to call him Fred Astaire. He realizes that something has happened to John Houseman, but he manages to get to the authorities and have them pull Eva's car out of the lake, right?
Yeah.
Which is intercut with a scene of Don confronting the rotting specter of Alma Eva, the ghost. They get the car out of the lake, and they wrench the door open, and the rotting corpse. I mean, I think the effects is pretty good. The corpse, falls to the ground. It's like this very dramatic scene, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing, though. Would that be that intact after that much time?
No, hell no. It'd probably be just
suspension of
barely.
disbelief there.
Yeah, she's
It'd
like
probably not be
underwater.
just a skeleton. Yeah.
Yeah, it would just be a skeleton. It's like this skeleton, this body has been underwater for like 40 years or something like that.
Yeah. No, 50 years. Yeah.
50 years, yeah.
And here's the interesting thing. It says, now the truth about Eva is known, and Dawn is spared from her vengeance, and the town is restored to peace. The thing that I took away, though, is Ricky spared, Fred Astaire spared, because he went to the police and they pulled the car? Like, isn't he still, like, one of the four scumbags? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, like,
why did it have to end, is my question.
I mean, it would have made more sense if he got killed somehow. He met the same end as everyone else, because these guys have been living their entire lives basically with this, like, this black mark on them, and this terrible secret that they're keeping. And it would make more sense to me that he would also get the same, he would be the subject of revenge, like the other gentleman.
But the one thing now I'm thinking is that because he actually finally, 50 years later, did go to the police and did pull the car out, maybe that broke the curse, right?
Right, because going back to the flashback of them telling, when the story is being told, that is something that was put on the table originally, was to go to the authorities. And everyone's like, no, these are like young men. They're like in their early 20s maybe. And
yes.
Their lives are all ahead of them. They got careers, and all this stuff. And, they all have they all became doctors and attorneys, and one guy became a mayor, and that kind of thing. And, successful men. And possibly there's like the concept that maybe their success, they shouldn't have been successful. They should have actually dealt with the consequences of murdering this young woman. So
yeah, listen, they're all rich old white men.
Yeah, who got away with murder, literally.
Yeah, right.
So
but
maybe,
I think
maybe Ricky, like you were saying, at the end, towards the end of his life, he actually did the right thing by going to the authorities. I think that's closing the circle on the story.
Right. Yeah. And who knows? Maybe he was even arrested afterwards. I mean, the movie ends, but statute of limitations. Perhaps he was arrested. And thrown in jail. Fred Astaire in jail.
Yeah. Don is not, he's the son, so he literally, he's the bloodline of Edward, but, it would be more like, vindictive to take revenge on him, since technically he wasn't alive when she was killed,
Interesting. So yeah, this, like we said, was a novel by Peter Straub, and it was purchased in 1978 for $225K from Universal Pictures. Pretty much the moment it was out, it was already going to be a movie. So how about that for Peter Straub? Nice little feather in his cap.
Yeah.
And that the screenplay, Irwin envisioned the narrative as being about hypocrisy and principally men's fear of women, and at some point hatred of women.
I could see that.
I see that. Yeah, I totally see that. And he wanted the film to look European in appearance and like a Christmas card. I could see that as well, right?
Yeah, definitely.
The principal photography was in Saratoga Springs, New York, and Woodstock, Vermont. And some of it was also shot in Union Station in Albany, New York. And the Florida scenes were in DeLand and New Smyrna Beach, Florida. See, man, this was back in the day when 9 times out of 10, where a movie took place is where they went to film it, huh?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't like it wasn't shot in like Bulgaria or something like that, like like Pearl and all that stuff.
We're going to shoot this in Montreal. Okay. Right. They went all over for this movie. I mean, it's a very nice looking movie. Like I said, it wasn't a big hit. It was a Christmas time release for, Universal. Test screenings were in October, and it opened to wide release December 18th. Took in almost 24 mil. It was the third highest grossing horror film of 1981, and the 34th highest grosser of 1981 overall. So I guess, not chump change.
No.
1982 was nominated by Saturn. Oh, I'm sorry, for the Saturn Award for Best Horror Film. That was more of a big deal back in the day, huh?
I think so. Yeah, you don't hear about the Saturn Award these days too much.
No, you do not. You definitely do not. Made its DVD debut in 1998 from Image Entertainment, and then re-released on DVD in 2004. Made its Blu-ray debut in 2015 from Scream Factory, and I believe it is still in print from Scream Factory. It's got some interesting extras, commentary with John Irvin, interviews with Peter Straub, Alice Krieg, Lawrence Cohen, a couple other cast members. Might want to check that out. No?
Have you read much of Straub's work? I haven't read any of his books, to be honest.
No, I have not read his works. I mean, I know he's kind of like, he was kind of concurrent with King, right? At one point.
Well, they collaborated on that one book, like this kind of
the
fantasy.
Talisman.
Yeah, the Talisman. That's what it was. And
so he's the contemporary of Stephen King. Yeah.
Yeah, like I actually own a copy of that in hardcover, which I got like when I was a kid, and I still haven't read it.
Oh God.
Yeah, I should pick it up one day and actually read it. Like I literally have had this book my entire life, and I haven't read it yet. Is that
trying to think what are some of his other big big novels or big stories? Oh, he did The Black House in 2001 with Stephen King as well. Ah, okay. Talisman back in 84. Ghost Story in 79. He's got a few before that. Nominated multiple times for the Bram Stoker Award, which is a very big deal. But yeah, I think the last novella he wrote, according to Wikipedia, was back in 2017. I mean, he's got a bunch of stuff out there,
Yeah.
I would check out some of his stuff. Yeah, I want to check out The Talisman. Never read it.
It's kind of a big book, and also I'm definitely going to read this one, and that might be the gateway into his other material. I think reading the Ghost.
Yeah, Black House is the sequel to Talisman, actually.
Oh shit. Okay.
So yeah, his other Stephen King collab. Cool shit. Again, this is a really fun movie. Again, it's like a winter movie to shake off the heat of the summer,
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And this one came by way of the the Necrophone, so this is a recommendation.
So, Mike, what do you give this on our Necro scale of 1 to 5?
Well, despite some of the things that we pointed out about this, I think it's a great movie. I really enjoy the atmosphere of it, and I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5.
Yes. I was kind of in that neighborhood, and then I was like, well, maybe I'll give it a 4. But no, I actually give it a 4.5 as well. Highly recommended. It's rewatchable.
Yeah.
It could be like a yearly, almost maybe November, December watch, to be totally honest. They don't make movies like this anymore, do they, Mr. Hill? Like these big cast, big story, big location horror movies. I mean, it's a mainstream horror movie, but today's mainstream horror is like, Evil Dead Rise. You know what I'm saying? This was mainstream horror circa 1981.
It's a classy movie. I'll use that term for it. Yeah.
We like classy sometimes here, folks. We want to class up the joint.
Yeah. It's definitely a classy film. It's got quality acting in it. It has a really great atmosphere. Special effects are good. There's a couple, if you scrutinize the plot, there might be a couple little holes here and there, but, according to Rennie, the book really fleshes things out in a much better manner. So I'm going to read the book and then I'll, compare my notes, I guess.
I didn't see that 2000s movie Ghost Story that has like the cover, like the poster with just the skeleton with the glasses. Did you see that movie?
I did not see that movie.
I've been referred to as a hipster horror. I've heard all these weird things about it. I heard from some other people that it's actually very depressing.
Huh.
I might want to check that out. You know what movie I'm talking about, right?
No, I do, because I know. I just never got around to watching it, actually.
Yeah. I must feel like it's something that we may have thrown around maybe once on the show, like a long time ago, like when it came out. But we never got around to it. Interesting.
Yeah, maybe we should revisit that.
Yes. Yeah. But what are you reading lately, Mr. Hill? Anything? You read anything?
I just finished The Troop by Nick Cutter.
Hmm.
And I just got, this is going to be reviewed on Everything Went Black. Grimscribe Press. I just got a review version of the Kim Towell's new short story collection. And
Oh, nice.
I'm going to be interviewing her over at Everything Went Black and doing some, review extras and things like that for it. And yeah, a lot of that Grimscribe stuff. The new issue of Asterion, which is like a collection of horror, weird fiction stories.
Nice.
It's stuff, that kind of thing. The normal shit that I read.
Well, this is pretty weird. I read most of Alan Moore's Providence, but I never finished it. Okay, so I have the trade, and I'm finally just going to hunker down and finish it. I don't know why I never finished it. Like,
that's fantastic, dude.
It's really fucked up. I remember liking it a lot. I think what happened was, honestly, it was right around the time of a move, and sometimes when I'm about to move, everything stops. Any collecting and read, like, because you're concentrating on just either getting rid of things or putting things to the side. And I think that's exactly what happened with Providence. So I never finished it. And I think I still have a bunch of the single issues, but I went and just bought the trade for a decent price. So yeah, I want to read the whole thing. It's creepy as hell.
It's a good one, man. It's got Lovecraft in it. Mm-hmm. Actually, it literally has H.P. Lovecraft as a character in it.
Yes, and they decided that he is a homosexual in this, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, they do. They don't. They kind of like have him portrayed in a very specific way. There's references to the King in Yellow and Robert Chambers, and and all of the other H.P. Lovecraft mythos characters make appearances in there too. Not all, but a lot do.
But I just remember as I was reading it, because it's like, it's set in like the 20s, right? Or the early 30s, or late 20s. And it's just, I think Alan Moore, like, doesn't half-step anything, they say. It's like, as you're reading it, you're very kind of like in that time period and in that era, and like just all the weirdness going on set against so long ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, you feel that, right?
Yeah, Moore is a real master storyteller, and like I love pretty much everything I've ever read by Alan Moore. I've completely loved, going all the way back to Swamp Thing.
Yeah. But so that's what I've been doing. And as I was tearing through Mad Men, as lo and behold, Freevee, which was where I was watching Mad Men for free, has gotten rid of Mad Men. Mad Men is now gone from Freevee. So I was like in the middle of like season 5, even though I've watched it literally 4 to 5 times.
Isn't that on Max though?
No, Mad Men is now on just AMC Plus.
Oh wow.
The pay service. And it is on Amazon or Apple for $1.99 an episode.
Oh Jesus.
Or you pay that one amount for the whole thing. But I may actually buy the Blu-rays, man. I may literally just buy the fucking Blu-ray set because I do love it. And I hate that it's kind of bounced around. At one point, it was on Netflix. At one point, it was on IMDb TV and then Freevee. And then at one point, it's just been on several services. But then AMC is like, you know what? Fuck you. This is one of our cash cows. It's just going to be here, basically. So
they say, fuck you, pay me.
Yes, fuck you, pay me. Yeah. I mean, it's reminiscent of before HBO Max corralled everything off of Netflix. Remember when a bunch of shit was still on Netflix from HBO?
Yeah, that's right. I remember.
And then it just wasn't, because they were just like, nope, you're a competition now. So yeah, crazy shit. And I may do the same for Miami Vice, because some listeners may know I'm a Miami Vice fanatic. It is on Tubi, but I don't like how it looks on Tubi.
Yeah, and you got the commercials cut into it.
I know. And I know for a fact that the Blu-ray set of Miami Vice, not the DVD set, does not look good in 2023 at all. But the Blu-ray set, that is, a bunch of years old, does still look very good.
Okay.
So I may actually just get that as well. It's in HD. It's the only one in HD. Like the DVD one was like, it's like early O's. Like it doesn't look that great. That's why I got rid of my Miami Vice DVDs. Looks like shit.
I should revisit Miami Vice. I haven't watched that in years.
Oh, it's great, especially like the first 4 seasons, just gangbusters. Gets very strange at the end, but to me, still good. But it's not as strong. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been checking out. I'm a little lost in my Joe Bob viewing because fucking Shudder makes it impossible to figure out how to watch and where to watch that show.
Well, I mean, do you have the app or do you watch it through Amazon?
No, I have the app, but Joe Bob it's not, there isn't a Joe Bob section.
Oh,
how the fuck is there not a Joe Bob section?
Oh, yeah, you mean, I watch it. I try to watch it when it airs. You know what I mean? So yeah, on Fridays. If you don't
do that, you're kind of like, you're gonna have to dig for it. If you don't watch it as it's airing, it is the pain in the balls. Oh, and by the way, it is not on the next day after too. It's like 2 or 3 days later.
Yeah, that's right.
Like,
yeah. And,
it's really frustrating.
Yeah, lately I haven't really been able to watch it live on Fridays. I've had stuff going on Friday night.
Right.
Doing, but you know, like for this past Friday, I caught the last half of it or something like that. You know,
what they do, listeners, and I'm sure some of you know, is it's individually by the name of that like special or like the name of the theme. Like, why in God's name is in its own little hub where it's broken out in fucking chronological order?
Yeah.
Like, really?
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Come on, man. Come on. That can't take that much. How much can that take? I mean, I know they're down to 4 people working there at this point, but I mean, Jesus Christ, right?
Yeah, they don't make it easy on you, that's for sure.
No, nothing is easy.
Yeah.
And so that is my Joe Bob Shudder gripe, listeners. I don't know. Some may agree. Some may think I'm an idiot for not being able to find it, but it's hard to find the new shit. Very hard. Easy to find movies. You type in the name of the movie. But if you want to watch that show and you missed it, the live version, it's a pain in the balls. And that's that, Michael.
And that's that. And thanks for listening, everyone. And we'll get at you next week. Everyone take care.
Be well. Take care. This is a great movie. It's a simple movie, but it's great because of the cast and the vibe. Ultimately, it's a very kind of simple horror movie, though, Mike. But we'll get into that.
Yeah.